In this lesson, you will further learn how to distinguish between action verbs and linking verbs. Here is a copy of the mind map that you should use to take notes on during this lesson. Action verbs show physical or mental action. They indicate what the subject of the sentence did or is doing. It's when the traditional definition of a verb. When we say a verb is what you do, we're thinking of action verbs. Linking verbs link the subject of the sentence to a predicate nominative, which is a noun that identifies or renames the subject, or a predicate adjective, which is an adjective that describes the subject. Write these definitions down. Many verbs can be both action and linking. Use the following steps in order to figure out whether the verb you're looking at is functioning as action or linking in the sentence you're looking at. First, find the subject. Mark it off. Circle it. Second, find the verb. I recommend underlining it to distinguish it from the subject. 3, ask whether the subject is doing something or being described. If your subject is doing something, you have an action verb. If the subject is being described, you have a linking verb. Once you are pretty confident that you have an action verb or a linking verb, next, you can think about what comes after action verbs. Action verbs may or may not be followed by direct objects. Be careful not to confuse these with predicate nominatives. Linking verbs, however, will be followed by a subject complement. This will be your predicate adjective or your predicate nominative. If you think it's a linking verb, you have to be able to find the predicate adjective or the predicate nominative. Here is a really cool trick. If you can substitute a form of the verb to be and the sentence still makes sense, then you probably have a linking verb. Remember to make sure the new verb agrees with the subject. I recommend turning your mind map over and writing all of this down. Pause the video. So here's an example. In the sentence, the pineapple tastes delicious. I'm not sure whether or not this is action or linking. So I'm going to take a form of the verb to be, which is, am, are, was, and were. And I'm going to rewrite the sentence to say the pineapple was delicious. That makes sense. It's the same as the original meaning. Therefore, I've double-checked that I have a linking verb. If I look at the next example, I tasted the pineapple. Again, I'm not sure if it's action or linking, so I substitute a form of the verb to be. Again, I'm going to use was. Now I was the pineapple. Unless you look like this cute little guy over to the right, probably not what you mean. That helps you know for sure that tasted in this sentence is functioning as an action verb. So let's look at some examples. With the verb look, it can be both action or linking. I looked over the test carefully to check for errors, compared to because there were 100 questions, the test looked hard. In the first example, it's an action verb. It's somebody doing something. He's actively looking at the test. In the linking verb section, nobody's doing anything. The test is being described. And here I can double check that because I have a predicate adjective hard that is going back to describe the test. The next example with the verb feel, again, it can be either action or linking. Lenny felt the rabbit's soft fur compared to Lenny felt sad after he killed the puppy. In the first sentence, it's action. Lenny is actually feeling the rabbit. He is petting it. He feels the soft fur. In the second example, it's linking. Lenny felt sad. It's describing his current state of being. I can double check this by finding the predicate adjective sad and linking it back to the subject of the sentence, Lenny. The next example, taste. I tasted the pumpkin cheesecake versus the pumpkin cheesecake tasted smooth and creamy. In the first example, somebody is doing something. He is eating the pumpkin cheesecake. He is tasting it. The second example again shows the pumpkin cheesecake being described by the predicate adjectives smooth and creamy. Both of them are predicate adjectives that go back to describe the cheesecake, which is the subject of that sentence. Sound. The fire alarm sounded, so the students left the building. Compare that to the fire alarm sounded so loud that I had to plug my ears. The first sentence is telling us the fire alarm went off. It rang. It sounded. It's doing something. The second sentence is describing it. It's describing it using the word loud. Loud is our predicate adjective, and it links back to the subject of the sentence, alarm. Smell. I smelled the aroma of chocolate as the brownies baked, compared to the baking brownies smelled delicious. The first sentence, again, action. Somebody's actively doing the smelling, whereas in the second sentence, the brownies are being described by the predicate adjective delicious. Appear, approaching noiselessly. The cat appeared out of nowhere, compared to the cat appeared sick after eating a tray of brownies. First example, the cat is arriving. He's coming onto the scene. He's appearing actively. In the second sentence, he's being described. He looked sick. He was sick. The predicate adjective sick links back to the subject of the sentence, cat. Grew. This is a tricky one. Joshua grew 5 inches over the summer, compared to the children grew excited about the upcoming vacation. In the first sentence, he's actively growing and getting taller. The second sentence is, again, describing the children. They grew excited. Grew is linking the predicate adjective excited back to the subject of the sentence, children. Remained. I told Spot to stay, so he remained where he was, compared to effective leaders usually remain calm in a crisis. The first sentence, he's doing something, or not doing something. He's remaining. He's not changing. He's staying where he is. The second one, again, describing. Remain is linking the predicate adjective calm to the subject of the sentence, leaders. Stay. We stayed at home for the vacation, compared to my brother stayed enthusiastic about science throughout high school. In the first sentence, staying is an action, or the lack of action, not moving, compared to the second sentence, in which it's again linking the subject of the sentence, brother, to the predicate adjective, enthusiastic. Turn. I ran into an old friend as I turned the corner, compared to the weather usually turns cold in December. Again, first sentence is showing action, actively turning the corner, whereas the second sentence is showing that it's linking the predicate adjective cold back to the subject of the sentence, weather. Again, if you didn't write these steps down, write them down now. This is the process you should go through every time you're looking for the verb and trying to figure out which verb it is. Find the subject, find the verb, ask whether the subject is doing something or being described. If it's doing something, it's action. It may or may not have a direct object. If it's linking, it's definitely going to be followed by a predicate adjective or a predicate nominative. Special thank you to Michelle Lamb, who did the graphics for this video.